Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 26, 2025.
Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a la reunión.
We're going to hold just a second to get translation straightened out. We're good. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 26, 2025 regularly scheduled meeting of the West Contra Costa Unified School District School Board. The meeting is called to order at 5:00 p.m. To access translation in Zoom, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. If you are here in Dijon, you can pick up a headset for translation in the back corner of the auditorium. The board is about to go into closed session, but before we do, we're here to listen to public comment on closed session items. Individuals wishing to speak on the closed session items listed, if you're here in the auditorium and you haven't done so already, please submit a WCCUSD public comment card, which you can find on the entryway table, or if you are participating via Zoom, individuals will need to raise their hand in the Zoom app. If you are accessing the meeting by phone, press *9. The time allotted to each speaker is 2 minutes. The total time allotted is 1 hour. Speaking time shall not be transferred from one person to another. There is also no substitution of speakers. We alternate between a Zoom comment and an in-person comment. The public comment period is a safe space where diverse viewpoints may be expressed civilly without interruption or intimidation. Please listen attentively to each speaker's comment and respect their time as if it were your own. Be open to a different point of view if one is offered. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. The items listed on the closed session agenda tonight are conference with labor negotiators, public employee performance evaluation, public employee appointment, and that is all. Is there any public comment on these items?
We have no public comment.
Thank you. We are now adjourning to closed session and we'll be back at 6:30 p.m. Thank you. Everyone, and thank you for your patience. Welcome to open session of the regularly scheduled March 26, 2025 meeting of the West Contra Costa Unified School District School Board. The board is returning from closed session and I am calling open session to order at 7:04 p.m. To access translation in Zoom, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. If you are here in the auditorium and need translation, you may pick up a headset in the back corner of the auditorium. In a few minutes, we will begin the public comment agenda item. Members of the public are invited to speak to the board on any matter that is not otherwise on the agenda, but is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the West Contra Costa Unified School District. Please prepare now for public comment. If you are here in the auditorium and you'd like to make public comment, please fill out and submit a WCCUSD public comment card. You can find them on the table in the entryway. If you are participating via Zoom, please raise your hand in the Zoom app prior to the beginning of the item on the agenda. If participating by phone, press *9. After your comment card has been turned in, the cards are placed in the order received, and we call on speakers one at a time, alternating between a public comment here in Dijon and one in Zoom. Public comment generally lasts for 1 hour. The time allotted to each speaker is 2 minutes. In the meantime, we are moving on to the rest of our opening procedures. We are moving now to B2, Pledge of Allegiance. If you are willing or able, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. B3, Land, Labor, and Body Acknowledgement. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Muwekma, Karkin, Ohlone peoples and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. Labor and Body Recognition Acknowledgement. I acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systemic injustice falls upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that Black and brown people were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I also acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Author, Dr. Rochelle Rogers Ard. B4, West Contra Costa School District Anti-Racism Statement. The West Contra Costa District Board of Ed is committed to the work of anti-racism, the conscious and active effort to identify, challenge, and correct racial inequities in the systems and institutions within our schools and community. Racism, explicit or implicit, stands in direct conflict to the fundamental principles of WCC USD education. To carry WCC education into the future, we recognize that we must continually renew and reflect on the roots of racism and develop new ideas to meet the times. Unjust ideas and policies and the racial inequity they produced have shaped us, our schools, and our society. We strive to uncover unconscious biases and practice anti-racism as individuals and as board members. We challenge ourselves to persist through the discomfort necessary for growing and learning, to deepen our listening and our examination of racism and oppression, and to develop a strong understanding of how our personal experiences and feelings fit into a larger picture of continual oppression. Each member of our school board, individually and collectively, is responsible for creating and nurturing an anti-racist learning environment where each student, staff member, and community partner is a respected and valued member of the WCC USD community. We are uniquely positioned, and it is our responsibility to identify and dismantle racist ideas and inequitable policies in ourselves and across the district. Therefore, we commit to supporting anti-racist policies, programs, and practices for our children's education and well-being, while building strong and inclusive school communities. We commit to holding each board member accountable towards these goals and moving the work of anti-racism forward. We also commit to holding West Contra Costa Unified School District staff, students, and community to living these standards of anti-racism in our schools. Board approved, March 20th, 2024. B5, roll call. Dr. Moses, will you please take roll?
Thank you. Clerk Inyana.
Good afternoon, everyone present.
Trustee Gonzalez-Boy.
Good afternoon, present.
Trustee Hernandez.
Good evening, present.
President Rickler.
Good evening, I am present.
Trustee Smith-Folds.
Good evening, everyone present.
Student Trustee Barone.
Good evening, present.
And Student Trustee Espinosa Jr.
Good evening, President.
That concludes the roll call.
Thank you very much. Moving on to B6, report ratification of closed session. Dr. Moses, is there anything to report out of closed session?
There is no report from closed session tonight.
Thank you. B7, student performance, Richmond High School celebration tonight. Would you like to introduce?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, President Reckler, Clerk Inyana, trustees, and community members. We're excited to have the Richmond High School choir students here to perform for us tonight. So please help me welcome Principal Reyes to the podium to introduce her students.
You have to push the little button. There's a little face. Push the little button.
All right, good evening, Superintendent and school board members. My name is Rocio Reyes. I am the proud principal of Richmond High School, and it is my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce our CTE teacher, Ms. Arisha Green, and students from her choir class. I just want to share a little bit about Ms. Green and her class. Before she got her CTE credential, she was a volunteer at our school and led our school choir club after school, which really was a safe place for many students at Richmond High School. She is a well-known businesswoman in our community, but fell in love with working with students. And so she pursued, with a lot of encouragement from admin, her CTE credential, and now teaches fashion design and choir at Richmond High School. She does it for a passion for supporting the students in her community, and we are very lucky to have her at Richmond High School. And I also wanted to share a little bit about our students that are here tonight. One of the advantages of a 7-period day is that our English language learners, in particular our newcomer students, have a chance to take electives such as choir. Many students here tonight are newcomer students who are very much enjoying their opportunity to both learn English and refine their musical skills alongside their English-speaking peers. Our choir class performs at many events throughout the year, and each time, in my personal opinion, they sound better and better. So I'm really excited to introduce them. I'm gonna have Ms. Green come up and introduce the performance tonight. Thank you.
Board members are invited down to the floor.
Thank you all for the opportunity to perform before you this evening. Tonight, we will be singing 2 songs, On a Clear Day, which many of you may know from Barbra Streisand, and Sunday Morning by Maroon 5. We will feature 2 soloists, Bethsaida and Hannah. So here we go. Thank you.
On a clear day, on a clear day, you can really see forever. On a really clear day, on a clear day, on a clear day, you can really see forever. On a really clear day, look all around you, it will astound you. You can really see forever on a really clear day.
You feel part of every mountain, sea and shore. You can see from far and near a world you never hear before.
On a clear day, on a clear day, you can see forever and ever. On a clear day, on a clear day, you can really see forever. On a really clear day, look all around you, it will astound you. You can really see forever on a really clear day. You feel part of every mountain, sea and shore. You can hear from far and near a world you've never heard on a clear day, on a clear day, you can see forever and ever more. Sunday morning.
Okay, thank you all very much. We are now going to moving to B8, public comment. So, members of the public are invited to speak to the board on any matter that is not otherwise on the agenda, but is the subject matter jurisdiction of the West Contra Costa Unified School District. Public comment will last approximately 1 hour. The time allotted to each speaker is 2 minutes. Should additional speakers remain at the conclusion of 1 hour, public comment may be extended. The time allotted per speaker beyond the first hour is generally 1 minute. Individuals wishing to speak, please submit a WCC USD public comment card, or if participating via Zoom, I'm sorry, I'm having a little asthma attack. Individuals will need to raise their hand in the Zoom app prior to the beginning of this item on the agenda. So we've been a little lax in this. If you're on Zoom, when I announce the item, and I'll give you a reminder, please raise your hand right before the item is called so that we have you in the queue. That's prior to beginning of this item on the agenda. If you're calling in by phone, press *9. Speaking time shall not be transferred from one person to another. There is no substitution of speakers. Speakers can also make public comment again for each discussion and action item on the agenda after staff presentations. The public will have 10 minutes per item and 1 minute per speaker. The same protocols recited above apply. The public comment period is a safe space where diverse viewpoints may be expressed civilly without interruption or intimidation. Please listen attentively to each speaker's comment and respect their time at the podium as if it were your own. Be open to a different point of view if one is offered. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. Is there any public comment?
Yes, our first public comment is Don Garcia.
Good evening. On March 4th, the Richmond City Council invited their friends from the United Teachers of Richmond et al. To speak about how the Board of Trustees was feeding the public erroneous information about the health of the district's finances. I'm not suggesting that the information in their presentation was incorrect, but since the council never gave serious consideration to inviting anyone from the district to present alternative facts, it was pretty much a one-sided conversation. Last week, we had one council member who tried to bully a trustee into doing their bidding. We had another council member rise to speak in violation of the established rules and protocols by swapping speakers, and a third council member called in to advocate for her friends. It took a lot of outside pressure, but Dr. Moses was finally invited to speak last night. Even though I attend almost every board meeting and have for many decades, I'm not going to suggest that I'm an expert, but I have to say that I learned a great deal from Dr. Moses' presentation last night. It was outstanding. I've spoken with quite a few people, and we were all very impressed with what we heard and saw from her. It's a shame that several of the council members did not share our thoughts. We heard from several employee speakers who did not seem in the least to appreciate this information and tried to point out how much of it was erroneous. We had members of the council who showed us their expertise in WCC USD affairs. We especially liked how a couple of them kept referring to the district as Richmond Unified, even though it changed their name, 34 years ago? That's just that. And they thought that Adams Middle School was in Richmond. And several were confident that the district assigned schools based on what city a student lives in, as if there were Richmond-only schools. And you had to scratch your head when they showed their ignorance about the impact of 12 charter schools in Richmond and what they have on the district. Wouldn't it be great if the district and the employee advocates laid down their battle axes and worked collectively to find solutions to their problems? No matter what they might say to the contrary, it just sure doesn't seem to be the case. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Mr. Jepson. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hello. I've been a parent of at least one El Cerrito High School student for 7 years now. I'm also a full-time teacher at El Cerrito and have been since 2007. A couple days ago, Dr. Moses sent an email to an El Cerrito parent explaining that our 4x4 schedule is not possible without an MOU. This is correct. Then today, Dr. Moses sent an email to all El Cerrito parents saying that an MOU is not necessary for the 4x4 to exist, which is not true. But how can parents be expected to know this? They assume that Dr. Moses is a person of integrity, but her communications to parents are riddled with inconsistencies and contradictions, making it difficult for anyone to believe anything she says. Among the complaints the district has made about El Cerrito's MOU is that they now have to pay teachers too much for filling in for teachers they have not hired. The change in overtime pay calculation in this year's MOU was demanded by the district last year before they would sign it, and now this is the reason to get rid of it? Another complaint Dr. Moses has made about our MOU is that teachers, quote, teach fewer minutes at EC, unquote. This is some magical math, but let's pretend it's factual for a moment. The reduction in minutes per day in our MOU happened 8 years ago, as requested by administration. Teachers just went along with it. Today's Dr. Moses email insists that the 4x4 is safe, or if it's not, it'll be either the teacher's or the county's fault. And yet, at the same time, she has instructed El Cerrito to start planning for a 7-period schedule, which would also require an MOU. At this point, it's impossible to know which words Dr. Moses puts into the community, if any, or what she actually means. El Cerrito teachers submitted their MOU weeks ago. If the district had any intention of signing it, as today's email said they do, they could have done the math and signed it already. I would much rather blame incompetence than malice for this delay, but it's difficult to blame incompetence for the nonstop contradictions pouring forth from the superintendent's office. The board needs to insist on truth and integrity now, then hire someone for whom integrity comes naturally as the permanent superintendent. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Sky Nelson.
Thank you, board. We couldn't make the beginning of the last speaker's comments, and the board was distracted, for the record. Hello, my name is Sky Nelson. I'm a teacher and parent in WCUSD. I'm encouraged by the supportive tone around the El Cerrito High schedule. But what really matters isn't one schedule, it's about fairness and accountability in the district. That means more transparency, more responsiveness, and systems that work for all schools, not just one. In just a year and a half in the district, I've seen how often we're reactive instead of visionary. As a teacher, as an example, we sometimes step in to cover classes for other teachers. While that's necessary, and we do it with love and respect, I've noticed that there's no district-wide system to track who's covering which students. We rely on teachers self-reporting.
Excuse me, sir. Can you just hold on for a minute? President Reckler, I can't hear anything he's saying.
Thank you. You got to it just before I did. Can we do a couple of sound checks? Can we stop the clock for him? We'll put a minute back at when we're ready to go.
Sound check. 1, 2. Sound check. 1 2. 1 2. Sound check. 1 2.
Sound check 1 2. My name is Sky Nelson, teacher and parent. Is that coming through? Yes, good. Okay. Shall I start? What really matters isn't one schedule, it's about fairness and accountability across the district.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson, will you just stop for a second? We're not able to hear up here.
Yeah. No problem.
Mr. Nelson, will you just give us a check?
Check. So I'm a teacher from El Cerrito High School. It sounds pretty good to me here. I can hear myself. Can you hear me? Are we ready to go? Let me know when we're ready to go. Thank you very much. Yes.
We're good to go. You may begin. Thank you so much.
No problem. What really matters isn't one schedule. It's about fairness and accountability across the district. That means we need more transparency, more responsiveness, and systems that work across all schools, not just one. In just a year and a half in the district, I've seen how often we're reactive instead of visionary. We can be visionary. As a teacher, we sometimes have to step in to cover other classes for teachers. And that has to happen, and we love the students, so we do it wholeheartedly. But there's no district-wide system to track who's covering which students. We rely on teachers self-reporting with their time cards, which I've never submitted myself. I'm less worried about pay and more worried about making sure our systems are strong and students are supported. That will build attendance. That will build attendance. These may seem like site-level logistics. When it comes to money, safety, and morale, we need proactive leadership at the district level. Bad systems are stressful on teachers, stressful on admin, stressful on our front desk staff. And please tell us how you calculate the cost of our schedule. Given the lack of systems in accounting that I've spoken about, how am I supposed to trust that the numbers are correct on your end? Let's make sure every school in our district has the systems, schedules, funding, and staff it needs to thrive. Thank you very much.
Our next public comment is Jean Kinster. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. I work at Verde Elementary. In the year 1415 to the year 2223, Eric Acosta Verpascas worked his tail feathers off to stabilize our school, our community, our staff, and our curriculum. Now, fast forward to 2425. We have 15 teachers in classrooms, 6 without credentials. They're not in compliance with the teacher, for the Williams, they're in teacher misassignment. Yes, they have emergency permits and they're working on credentials, and we've gotten a few good teachers that way lately. We have one that does not have a CLAD, again, an emergency credential, again, out of misassignment with Williams. Half of our classified, I'm sorry, our credentialed teachers are not properly assigned. Also, we went to a K-8 program sometime in that time so that we could build our student base. I even stepped forward and said, yes, I can teach TK and I will do it, because we were losing students going off to TK somewhere else and never coming back to our school. It was agreed that we would have 1-6, 1-7, and 1-8, and we would build up our lower grades. This year, we misused our FTEs again. There were 2 7th grade classes with 15 kids in them for 30 kids. The priority is given to 7th graders who will be on our campus for 1 year. Traditionally, we only have one of those. The priority is not given to TKs who will be here for 10 years, Ks 9 years, 1st graders 8 years, 2nd graders 7 years. It's not okay. We need to build our enrollment. We need efficient and effective use of our FTEs. The staff has spoken out about this to the principal, but we are unheard. Our voice doesn't matter. We have no decision-making power. It's like we don't exist. Please help stabilize our school. It's very important to us. We love our school. We love our students, and we want to carry on.
Our next public comment is Marina Malara.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Marina Malara, and I'm a parent of a 6- and 7-year-old at Michelle Obama. I'm here today to express my concern, the concern of the Michelle Obama PTA and other Michelle Obama parents. There's currently a lack of shade in both play yards, and as we know, heat waves are happening more often. For example, we just had some really hot days. Parents have asked the school to put temporary shade structures, but the request has been denied due to the safety concern that West Contra Costa School District has. While I understand that it's a safety issue to have temporary shades, I would like to point out that heat is also a significant safety concern. Today, I found out that there's a document from April 2022, thanks to our VP, Ms. Ives. It's called Protecting California from Extreme Heat, a State Action Plan to Build Community Resilience. And basically, Governor Newsom and Cal Fire provided $47 million in grants to help protect kids from the heat. To quote Newsom, California is heading into a hotter, drier future, and extreme heat will only become more dangerous. We're taking action to protect our kids, especially in underserved communities. I want to say that it's not the case for the school that my kids attend. When the school was being rebuilt, they had good intentions and trees were planted outside the school. That, however, never came to fruition. Trees have not grown. And there's no solution right now that won't happen for like 10 years for those trees to actually become useful. I'm asking for help to find a temporary solution and support for a permanent solution. The PTA has raised money and will continue to do so. So we're not asking for funds. We also have non-invasive shade structures in mind and simply need help from the school district to make it happen. It's very frustrating being told that it can be done because it is practically impossible and not having a clear path. I hope after today I can connect to the right person. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Dr. Moses, would a member of your cabinet be able to get her number so that you can connect? Thank you.
Our next public comment is Gabby Drage. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Sorry, my phone is being very difficult. My name is Gabby Drage, and I've been a teacher at El Cerrito High School for about 10 years. I spent about half that time directly involved in the MOU creation. I was 6 years old when the MOU was first instituted at El Cerrito High. The email that went out earlier today would have been very reassuring about our schedule had it not been exactly the same thing we've been hearing this entire time, but this time with more factual inaccuracies and misinformation. So much, in fact, that I feel like I don't know what is understood, if anything, or what can be trusted. I can't get into all of it. I don't have enough time. But what I can do is talk about the thing that's confusing me most now, which is the insistence that our schedule costs a lot of money and that, but only 1 year, and that will be accepted if it's cost neutral. As others have pointed out, any changes that were already made were made by the request of admin. And what hasn't changed is that every year admin tells us that this cannot be afforded in one way or another, that it doesn't work or something doesn't make sense. And we have been begging for these receipts. We really want to understand how these numbers were arrived at. There is a reason that we ask our students to show their work. And when they refuse to do so, that is almost always very telling. If you won't value the benefits of our schedule, you at least need to be transparent about the costs. And please do factor in the cost of repeated mismanagement and failing to adequately staff sites. If you say you support something, but only if it costs you nothing, you do not support that thing. Anti-racist promises be damned. If you say you support our schedule, but then also ask admin to make a backup 7-period schedule just in case, I think that speaks for itself. Please.
Our next public comment is Sam Clear. Sam Clear.
Good evening. Today, UTR filed an unfair labor practice against the district. I know the Siege community has been advocating for humane learning conditions for students for years and years. Since being there, community activists, staff, parents, and students have communicated the dire need to evaluate Siege's facilities. Students sent pictures and letters to the district leadership about their hope for a safe school and called out the broken windows, mold, holes in the floor, and broken tiles. No student ever should walk into an unsafe school. Generations of Siege students did that. Students and families throughout the generations deserve to know the findings of the Cal OSHA investigation. Hiding these findings is illegal and puts the safety of our students at risk. President Reckler, order your staff to produce the Cal OSHA report and complaints immediately. Students, families, staff, and educators deserve to know the truth. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Mark Mitchell.
Good evening, Board and Interim Superintendent Moses and Cabinet. As Ms. Clear indicated, today UTR filed an unfair labor practice, and it's regarding the district's refusal and failure to provide a copy of the Cal OSHA complaint with charges that was issued many weeks ago now. We requested this in an email to the interim superintendent in writing on March 6th. We received a response. I'll see about that on March 9th. I asked President Reckler in the board meeting to direct her staff to produce the report on March 12th. On March 13th and March 20th, we asked in meetings with HR officials to produce the report. On March 18th, I sent another email to the interim superintendent and asked that the report be produced. On March 21st, I reiterated this request personally to Associate Superintendent Acosta, and we have received nothing. It's regrettable that educators have to resort to litigation to receive just such basic information about exposures to dangerous conditions, chemicals, and substances that have been investigated and reported on by a governmental agency. This WCCUSD is not a secret society. You're a governmental entity. You report to the citizens which you serve, including those that work here and the students and families that access our facilities. What in the world is going on? What kind of responsibility do you feel to Siege students and families? These students and families need to know what happened so they can take steps to provide services and support to students who perhaps for many years were exposed to lead, which leads to cognitive decline and other issues. Those students probably need special support. We don't know because you won't produce the report to tell us what actually happened. So there's three.
Our next public comment is Angela Chase.
West County Mandarin is the first public Mandarin immersion international baccalaureate school at the elementary level in California. There are a lot of misconceptions about us. Students do not need to know Mandarin to enroll. Many students enter speaking Spanish, Russian, Tibetan, and many other languages, then learn Mandarin and English as their second and third languages. We are a diverse by design school, meaning 50% of our spaces are reserved for students who qualify for free reduced lunch and/or are English learners. Also, our student demographics closely reflect the demographics of the county. And although we have a slightly higher population of Asian students, we are not a school for rich Chinese students, which is a comment I've heard from district personnel. Apparently, the anti-racist statement read at the beginning of each meeting doesn't actually mean anything. We found out that we received the 2025 California Distinguished School Award, the only school in our district. We previously won an Honor Roll Award and a Pivotal Practice Award. We got a congratulations from Kim Moses, which I found is interesting, as she is currently in the process of destroying and dismantling our school. We are going to arbitration over the district's refusal to pay teachers the stipend for combo classes, a total of $12,000 per year. We have 4 combo classes each year, occasionally an additional one. They have also told us that we should ask our PTA to pay us the stipend, as we are a school for rich Chinese students, which is completely untrue. They also blame our principal. They have flat out said that he lies, he does whatever he wants, and is uncontrollable. They say this about our school leader, who follows the contract better than I do, and I'm an active school rep. They told our grievance team that we are no longer allowed to have combo classes, which would change the entire structure of our school, possibly kicking students out. At the same time, they've told us we're approved to have combos next year. We would love to continue as is with stipends as laid out in our contract. No teacher is excited to teach a combo class.
Our next public comment is Raquel Antolin.
Hello. First, I'd like to begin by thanking you all for your time and dedication. Welcome new board members and returning board members. My name is Raquel Antolin, and I am the program coordinator for Discovering the Realities of Our Community, a youth group focused on alcohol and drug prevention from Bay Area Community Resources. And today I stand here before you not only as the coordinator of this program, but as a Richmond resident, a community organizer, and a lifelong advocate for social rights. Growing up in Richmond, California was not easy. Coming from a working class family of immigrant parents, I faced numerous challenges. Experiencing drugs, violence, gangs was a harsh reality and a normality for me. It shaped my childhood. However, I was fortunate to have a strong support system that helped me reach for help and be open to receiving help. With this support system, helped me, which included Making Waves education program, my family, and other caring adults, I would have not received the help that I needed to overcome an addiction and become a productive member of my community. And not all of our young people have this strong support system. Many of them face the same struggles I did, but without the resources and guidance to navigate those challenges. If we can implement a drug and alcohol education for our youth, we can help them and think twice before returning to substances. This proactive education could be life-changing. So today I stand before you on behalf of the youth in our district, as well as the mothers who have lost children to alcohol and drugs. We have had enough. It's time to dismantle our current education system and introduce classes that will not only benefit our children, but shape and potentially save their lives. We have an event coming up, Youth Against Addiction, that our youth are hosting on April 5th at Richmond High School. So I invite all the parents, board members, everyone to come out and support our youth. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Elvira Martin.
Hello, my name is Elvira Martin Bautista. This is my first year in the D-Rock youth community, and I'm currently a senior at De Anza High School. Underage drinking and substance abuse is common among students I go to school with. Whether I see it at school or social media, they always show it off regardless of the risk. Negative impacts can causing negative impacts in their communities. Some students believe that that drugs are less harmful, but in reality, all drugs have negative side effects, whether they present themselves immediately or later down the line, such as addiction. It is important for students to get educated on these risks, but also spread awareness in our community, especially since we're still developing physically and mentally. My Dear Rock peers have created a curriculum draft Rocked where it consists of 6 30-minute sessions where it can be spread out over 6 weeks. Not only does this curriculum provide information on the risk, stigma, and prevention or treatments, it allows students to discuss with each other and share their own experiences. I urge the school board council to consider implementing this curriculum into schools we go to help students who struggle with drugs, but also prevent future generations from underage drinking and substance abuse. Thank you for your time.
And our last public comment is Cynthia Camacho.
My name is Cynthia Camacho, and I am a junior attending De Anza High School. In D-Rock, we as a community come together and voice our concern with substance abuse among youth in Richmond. In this group, we have students from schools throughout the city who help promote and spread awareness of the issues our peers are facing. Throughout my high school years and experience, I have watched people I grew up with given to the temptation of substance usage. This is why we come together as one and use our voice to speak out and express our widespread concern. As a part of the Richmond community, we aim to drive our fellow students and peers in the right direction while prioritizing prevention towards substances of any kind. By adding a curriculum focusing on the prevention of drugs and alcohol into our school system, our goal of achieving a healthier environment for our community will be more achievable. We strive to make a change for our future by inspiring and motivating one another. My group and I will persist even in the face of any challenge by using our voice and standing our ground as a unified team. Thank you.
As a point of order, can we know what time the event is, Dr. Moses?
Yes, we have Director Forrest asking, checking in with the commenter to get the information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're on the same page on that. Is that the end of public comment? Great. Okay, thank you to everybody who gave public comment tonight. We're now moving to B9, agenda review and adoption. Does any have anything on the agenda for review or adoption? If I may ask, I would like to move E3, which is the action item approved superintendent position description. Leadership Associates has asked if that may be prioritized. So if it's possible, when we get to the end of B, opening procedures, would we be able to jump to that? If anybody has any objections to that, would you please speak now? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, President. I was wondering if we could just approve consent. We have a long agenda ahead of us, and I'm just worried we might not get to consent items since they're at the end. Would it be possible, unless there's items that people will pull, if we can approve them after?
Yeah, we can go to that right now. I was just passed a note, though, to table C15. All right, so that I have no problem with that. Does anybody else have a problem with dealing with consent right now? Okay, so on consent, I was just passed a note to table C, I'm sorry, tonight consent is F. F15, table district budget engagement committee, would that be to the next regularly scheduled meeting? Okay, to table to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Does anybody else have anything on consent that they want to pull? Okay, seeing none, we'll adopt consent with C15 pulled, and we will move up action item approve superintendent position description to right after opening procedures. Thank you all very much. Okay, thank you everybody very much. We are now moving to B10, approval of the minutes for February 26, 2025. Does anybody have any corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will be approved as presented. B11, superintendent search update. I just have a brief update. And my update is as follows. Due to adjustments in the community engagement schedule, the deadline for accepting, oh, I forgot a word. Okay. The deadline for accepting applications is extended to April 4th, 2025 at 5:00 p.m. An updated search timeline is attached for informational purposes. Okay, moving on to B12, resolution number 2425-66, Women's History Month. Dr. Forrest, do you want to read the resolution clauses?
Director Force, this is your item.
Please forgive me. Testing? Testing? I apologize. Good evening, Board, Interim Superintendent Moses, Cabinet and Community. Now therefore be it resolved that March is designated as Women's History Month to honor their contributions, and that the West Contra Costa Unified School District honors the contributions that women have made throughout history and commit to support efforts to improve education and opportunities for girls and women.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Seeing none, well, I think we rock. More women in leadership, please. And with that, we will go to a vote.
Did anybody make a motion?
Oh, we should do that, yes. Thank you. I feel like we're above motion. Would anybody
I'd
like
be happy to
make-
make a motion and acknowledge my fellow trustees from Trustee Baron to Trustee Hernandez and Yana, President, and Smith Bowles. I thank you for your service. As the only man up here, I'm just so thankful for your leadership. As a Baron. Oh, and sorry, Trustee Espinosa Jr. as well, of course, the two. But I'm just thankful for your leaderships and your perspectives and who you represent. And as I have two daughters, I hope that they both grow up to be like one of you in the future. Well, I'm not gonna say who it's specifically, but one of you. So thank you for your service, and I'll move resolution number 2425-66, Women's History Month.
Is there a second on the item?
I second.
Hernandez is the second. Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Student Trustee Espinosa Jr.,
Yes.
Baron,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Clerk Inyana,
Yes.
Gonzalez Hoy,
Yes.
Smith Folds,
Smith Folds, yes.
and I'm a yes. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we're up to B13, resolution number 242567 in support of SB 502, Building Homes and Jobs Trust Fund allocation. And the recommendation is to approve the resolution. So to the board, just so that you know, this was a little bit of a surprise. We were contacted by the California Department of Education in late February and asked to hold a press conference where everybody would have been invited. That event was then canceled. We were asked to hold March 11th. Nothing came forward. Very late in the day, Dr. Moses contacted me and said, I contacted California Department of Education. I don't know if we're doing anything tomorrow. And then very late in the evening, we got the advance. So we ran up there, which is why nobody knew about it. That was not my intent at all, but sometimes, that's the way we roll. So we went up there, and that's why you didn't know about it. So what SB 502 is it would give school districts into a pot of money, which is a no-cost revolving loan fund, which would support pre-development costs for educated workforce housing. It would allow 125 school districts and local educational agencies per year access to this pool of funds. It would probably be $100,000, $200,000 in pre-development costs that school districts have to spend years before they actually, put a shovel in the ground or anything. And so Superintendent Thurman and the Honorable Jesse Evergreen really asked for our support on this. And I went up there personally and said, yes, I support it. And now I would like the board to support it. So that is the story behind it. And so I'll read the resolve clauses. The West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education further supports SB 502, introduced on February 19th, 2025, which would establish a revolving loan fund to support the pre-development costs of educator workforce housing, being further resolved that the creation of the zero-interest revolving loan fund would be accessible to 125 school districts and local education agencies per year and will provide access to funds to be used for pre-development costs, a common barrier for districts and LEAs seeking to establish workforce housing. Being further involved that upon passage, the superintendent of schools or appropriate designee shall transmit a signed copy of this resolution and a signed copy of resolution number 2425-22, resolution in support of educator workforce housing, to the Honorable Jesse Evergreen. So that is the resolution. We also have public comment on this item, which is unusual, but I'll allow it. So if Mr. Gosney would like to come up and make public comment.
Let me make this clear. I support workforce housing. What I worry about, though, is that our elected trustees, this board, will go down this rabbit hole without really thinking about anything greater than the general idea. I've been a part of your 7-Eleven committee to evaluate the 4 possible surplus sites and report back to the board and the public about options for the future of these sites. The issue here is this board sending yet another crystal clear message that no matter what your 7-Eleven committee recommends, you're going to go with workforce housing. And so already we've had 3 board members who have announced in semi-public meetings that they don't care, they don't even have to listen to the recommendations of the 7-Eleven committee, and they can do whatever they want. I advise you to speak to people who might ask those questions that workforce advocates don't want asked. The CSBA has some great information about the 5 districts that have implemented workforce housing, but they are 100% silent about those districts that have tried and failed. Are you even going to ask about the negatives associated with the 4 surplus sites, about the toxins, the flooding, the seismic activity, the shifting hillsides, the EMF emissions, and most importantly, Richmond's rent control ordinance, which can cost the district boatloads of money? All I'm suggesting is that you not surround yourself with people that think like you. Talk to some people that will ask those tough questions.
Thank you. And now, are there any questions or comments from the board? Go right ahead.
Thank you, President. First, thank you for bringing this forward. I think this is a really important bill that hopefully will come forward with a little bit of funding and support for school districts. I did want to just clarify, I think that with all respect for our chair of the CBOC, we have a new board. And I have not heard a single board member up here say what we want to do with our surplus property. So I just want to make that clear because we haven't had that conversation, right? I don't even know what I want to do with that property yet because I haven't heard from 7-Eleven committee. So I just don't want that information to get out there because I really haven't heard anyone up here say that. I have heard previous trustees, but they're not here. So I just want to make sure that that's just clear information. Now, with that said, I do support this bill because I do think that we need workforce housing as we have a huge shortage of labor in California, and especially in this district. So if that can help us, great. But we also can't build housing without support from the state, right? So we also need things like this in order to even consider building workforce housing, right? So I am in support, and thank you all for bringing this.
Thank you so much for your comment and your clarification. Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'll entertain the motion. Or I'll make the motion. I'll move resolution 2425-67 in support of SB 502, Building Homes and Jobs Trust Fund allocation.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Reckler is moved and Gonzalez is the second. And seeing no other comments, we'll go to the vote. Student trustee Espinoza Jr.
Yes.
Trustee Barone.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Clerk Inyana.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Hoy,
Yes.
trustee Smith Folds,
Smith Folds, yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving now to our first action item. We'll jump ahead. We're moving to E3, approve superintendent position description. And I believe we have leadership and associates here. And have they been promoted?
I think so.
Yes, they have. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. I think I hear Jim Brown.
I'm here. Yes, thank you. I, trustee Reckler, if you could raise your hand so I know you hear me.
Yes, we hear you. We got you.
Okay, all right. I'll begin then. Thank you very much for changing the order of the item. We appreciate it. And okay, let's see. There we go. All right. Video activated. There we go. Audio, video, boy, what a great country. All right, here we go. It's been a real pleasure, and I say that enthusiastically, to meet with so many people from your community over the past few weeks and learn about what they see as the strengths of the school district, the challenges that the new superintendent will face, and the qualities and characteristics that they would like to see in a new superintendent. We had 56 meetings with your different education partners. We had 10 town hall meetings, opportunity for people to participate. And we had an online survey that elicited 862 respondents. So we were pleased that there was good participation in the meetings. Of course, you'd always like to see more, but the combination of Zoom and in person, I think, helped more people to participate, particularly in the town hall meetings and the turnout on the online survey from different parts of the district. Why this is all important? Well, because it helps us in and the board in the process as we go forward to select a new superintendent. We take the results of these meetings and they are coalesced into a position description. And the board members have a copy of the position description. And in that that contains a summary of the major themes that we heard from the different meetings. We organized it and tried to capture the main ideas. That's a document that we share with prospective candidates. We ask them to, when they consider applying for the position, to see how close they come to the position description. Nobody's quite hits all the marks, but some people are going to come closer than others. This document can also be used to help frame questions for the interview, help us to do what do we need to ask on reference checks. So it's really an important document in the process, and it couldn't have been developed without the good participation of students, staff, and your other education partners in the community. And we're grateful for that. And we are thankful to Rosa Caneo and Rochelle Forrester for their hard work that they put in to help us get the groups together and get it organized. They really did a super job, and thanks to both of them. So the position description is before you tonight, along with the full report that we issued. It's in your board agenda packet, so it's available to the public. And I would point out that the report includes a cover document, a cover letter, appendix 1, the position description, appendix 2, the notes, the comments, and summary of the education partner meetings, and number 3, a summary of what we learned from the online survey. And again, all that comes together in the position description, and we hope we have captured well what your community thinks, what your students and parents think, and what the board thinks, because you were the first ones to weigh in on this when you talked to us about your desired qualities and characteristics. So we're recommending that the board approve the document, and that we will continue to use it in the process going forward.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Does anybody on the board have any questions on the document? Seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item?
We have no public comment.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve this.
President, I make a motion that we approve the job description.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Gonzalez Hoy and a second from Inyana. Is there any discussion on the item? Go right ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to very quickly thank Leadership Associates. I did see the very large amount of community meetings they held and individual meetings. And I really appreciated that they spent time with every single group that we sent them. And I thought the summary was really well done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you also. I found a few people that had been missed or wanted more, and they were very responsive to addressing those needs. So again, thank you to Leadership Associates. Okay, seeing no other comment, we'll go ahead and move to the vote. Student Trustee Espinoza Jr.,
Yes.
Student Trustee Barron,
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
Clerk Inyana,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Hoy,
Yes.
Trustee Smith Foltz,
Smith Folds, yes.
and I'm a yes. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much to leadership.
Thank you very much.
We'll be talking soon.
Okay, good night.
Thank you for that. We are now moving to item C, Superintendent Communication. Dr. Moses, this is your item.
President Reckler, I apologize. May I ask for a change?
Yeah, sure.
Would it be possible for us to do D1 now, since there's so many people waiting for that item? And then after that, we can do the superintendent communication?
Does anybody have any objections to that? Okay, seeing none, we can move E1, approve the second interim for 24-25 up. So, Mr. Hart, I believe this is your item.
President Reckler.
D1, sorry, D1, the.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hart.
Public
I
hearing for
didn't
a
hear that. I'm sorry. It's me. D1, can we move up? D1, that would be the public hearing for a Method Public Schools Richmond Charter Academy renewal. Okay, so does anybody have I apologize for that. Does anybody have
I have a comment.
what is your comment, Trustee Hernandez?
So I will be recusing myself from this item. I previously have been involved in litigation with AMPS, and I will not participate or vote on this item.
Thank you very much, Trustee Hernandez. You need to leave the dais, and there is an open room for you in the back, and we will call you when this item is complete. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is I am going to open the public hearing. There is going to be a presentation from the school district. There will be a presentation from a method. We will take public comment, and then we will close the public hearing. So that will be the process for this evening. So at this time, good evening, everyone. I am opening the public hearing regarding the charter renewal petition submitted by A Method Public Schools proposing the renewal of Richmond Charter Academy, which is currently authorized by the district. The time is 8:18 p.m. Petitioners are asking the district's board to approve the charter renewal petition for Richmond Charter Academy for a 5-year term, which will end on June 30th, 2030. The Ed Code requires the board hold a public hearing within 60 days of receiving a charter petition. The purpose of the hearing is to determine the level of public support for the renewal of the charter from district teachers, employees, and parents. The format, if the public hearing, is as follows. First, representatives of A Method Public Schools will have 10 minutes to present information to the board and the public regarding the request to the board to approve their charter renewal. Following their presentation, board members may wish to ask petitioners questions. After A Method Public Schools presentation, we will take comments from the public in order to gauge the public's support for the charter. Public comment will be limited to 1 minute per person for a total of 10 minutes and can be extended by a vote of the board. After public comment, I will close the public hearing. I also didn't add in there that the district also has 10 minutes for their presentation. Again, I want to remind everyone that the board will not take any action tonight. There is no action tonight. Staff are currently reviewing the submitted petition. Following the review of the petition and this public hearing, the governing board of the school district shall either grant or deny renewal of the charter within 90 days of receipt of the petition. The board will make its decision on the charter petition at a special meeting scheduled for April 30th, 2025. The representatives for A Method Public Schools will present to the board with public comment to follow. A Method, who is presenting for you? Would you please come to the podium? I'm sorry. Thank you so much. So will you please introduce yourself and then proceed with your presentation?
Yes. Good evening, President Reckler, Board of Trustees, and Interim Superintendent Moses. My name is Jasmine Landers. I am the current site director at Richmond Charter Academy. I just want to first say thank you guys for your time. I started out my career off in Baltimore City Public Schools over a decade ago, and most of my experience has been around turnaround efforts and improving student outcomes. Recently, I relocated to California to join Richmond Charter Academy, initially as the Dean of Instruction, and now I'm currently serving as the site director. Next slide, please. Next slide. I'm thrilled to discuss the incredible work that's happening at RCA as we approach our charter renewal. In my time here, I've witnessed countless examples of what makes RCA unique, but one of my favorite aspects is the remarkable growth of our students have shown across all indicators of a successful school. I have one story in particular, a student named Declan. I remember last year when he ran into our office, excited to share how he had met his end of the year reading goal. This particularly stood out to me because around mid-year, he was a little off track and pretty devastated by it. Through perseverance, he turned the situation around, embodying a relentless spirit that we encourage in our students. Declan is just one success story that we have at RCA about the great work that we're doing.
Good evening. I'm Adrienne Barnes, the CEO of A Method Public Schools, and I'm proud to be here supporting our Richmond Charter Academy family. I want to take a moment to thank you for your service. I know your jobs are hard and that you choose to do this work because you care deeply about the education of all students. I've been charged with leading AMPS forward to continue to build and work with our team to ensure complete compliance, not just in finance, but in reporting and our overall operations. I started with A Method in June 2024 and immediately hit the ground running with assessing our operations, ensuring we have the experience and the capacity to run a strong network of charter schools. I'm drawing on my experience in underwriting charter schools, managing back office services as an outsourced CFO for 13 schools, and leading on the ground in charter schools as a chief business officer. We've built a robust home office team to support our schools in strengthening operations, compliance, academics, and school culture. We've grown our home office team from 6 employees to now over 20. Next slide, please. You can see the support we have here today from our home office and our school site leaders to our parents and students wearing their RCA gear in support of our school today. We are here to ask you to renew our school as it is in the best interest of our students. Immediately upon joining AMPS, I saw the need for expertise in our accounting records and contracted with Joyce Montgomery, a 30-year veteran charter school CFO and CBO finance trainer. Additionally, we increased capacity in our finance department by adding Kimberly Palmore, our Senior Director of Finance. Both Kimberly and I are both trained and certified by the California Association of School Business Officials, and Ms. Arachiga joins us all being CSDC-trained CBOs, which ensures a deep bench when it comes to finance and compliance at AMPS. We are in receipt of the district's letter of concern, and as CEO, I understand that A-Method has a lot to build on, but also a lot to address. The challenges named in the letter are unacceptable, and our board, our leadership team, and I take full responsibility for addressing those challenges. AMPS increased its in-house expertise in finance while also bringing in a back office partner to ensure continuity in accounting and reporting, beginning with the 24-25 fiscal year. That said, our team has also delved into updating accounting entries, such as depreciation, going back to 2021. We agree with the district that our reporting has been late and incomplete as our team has grappled with accessing data from prior systems. With our streamlined audit, which is being finalized by this Friday, we will have a strong start to our 24-25 financials, which will further help to complete our reporting to the district. Our second interim reports were submitted on time, and our team is aware that there is zero leeway for late or incomplete reporting. Additionally, we are creating a written corrective action plan to supply a narrative in addition to our updated financial projections based on the audited numbers, which nearly eliminates our negative fund balance so that the district staff and board can see our path forward to restore RCA's positive fund balance and reserves, which we're currently projecting to be restored by June 30th, 2026. We look forward to sharing this plan with you and your team by April 12th. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Sarah Carloni, and I am proud to be the Dean of Instruction at Richmond Charter Academy. RCA currently serves 296 students in grades 6 through 8 and ranks in the top 15% in the 2024 U.S. News and World Report's Best California Middle School rankings. We serve over 97% students of color, composed of 91% Hispanic students, 4% African American students, and the remaining 5% split between white, Asian, and other students. Next slide, please. Our school is classified as a middle track school under AB 1505, meaning we meet performance standards while we also continue to identify areas for growth. Our 2024 California dashboard data, as shown here, demonstrates the significant progress we have made in working towards our goals. This includes moving indicators, such as suspensions, from orange to blue. We remain committed to continuous improvement and are determined to exceed state expectations. In the following slides, we will take a closer look at our performance data, where we currently stand, and our strategic steps we are taking to advance even further. Next slide, please. Throughout this presentation, you will see many graphs like this that show Richmond Charter Academy's data comparison to district, state, and local schools. RCA will always be shown first, with the comparisons being shown to the right. For the duration of the charter term, RCA has consistently outperformed neighborhood schools in SBAC ELA proficiency. In the 2023-2024 school year, as shown here at 53.6%, we achieved a significant increase in ELA proficiency, surpassing not only neighborhood schools at 10.9 and 10%, but also state and district averages at 32.5 and 47%. This data, drawn from state sources, WCCUSD, and local neighborhood schools, provides a comprehensive context for evaluating our impact. By neighborhood schools, we refer to those schools our students would have attended based on their residential addresses. Comparing RCA's performance at the local and state levels ensures alignment within the broader accountability framework and highlights our commitment to academic excellence within the Richmond community. Next slide, please. Similarly, RCA consistently outperformed neighborhood schools in SBAC math proficiency throughout our charter term. In 23-24, we saw a significant increase in math proficiency, a testament to the effectiveness of our instructional strategies and leadership. These gains reflect our commitment to data-driven decision-making and targeted support systems that drive student success. Next slide, please. While we are proud of our dashboard results, we always remain dedicated to continuous improvement, adapting our approach to meet the evolving needs of our students. Key strategies we have implemented include offering personalized learning supports and targeted instruction through an intervention block informed by assessment data sources, implementing lesson exemplars and weekly coaching cycles with staff focused on data analysis, classroom observations, and instructional feedback, engaging in data cycles and data conferences with both students and staff, and conducting professional development sessions 4 days a week, tailored by teacher observations and student performance data. Through these strategic initiatives, RCA remains steadfast in our mission to provide an exceptional education, ensuring that all students thrive academically and reach their full potential. Thank you. Ms. Landers will now discuss supports and growth for our student subgroups.
So far, we've highlighted the successes within our general student population. I'll take a moment to focus on our subgroups and celebrate their achievements as well. Our English language learners consistently outperformed the district, state, and all neighborhood schools on the LPAC assessment over the past 3 years. Most notably, we saw a significant increase in proficiency during the 23-24 school year. RCA uses iReady as an assessment tool. Next slide, please. RCA uses iReady as an assessment tool and a way to progress monitor student outcomes. Our English language learners consistently achieve at least 1 year of growth in both reading and math according to iReady. The dark line on the graph shown is the 1 year mark. Next slide, please. Similarly, our iReady data for our students with disabilities also shows at least 1 year of growth in both reading and math. Next slide. We've been intentional about strengthening our inclusion practices for our students with disabilities and English language learners. Additionally, we built robust systems for intervention block into our daily schedule, ensuring that our subgroups receive targeted support 4 days a week for 50 minutes in reading and math. This data tracked weekly allows our team to make real-time adjustments based on student needs. To foster a culture of achievement, we've established school-wide weekly goals, making progress visible across all classrooms and celebrating growth at each week. Beyond these supports, we also have paraprofessionals, translated assignments, and a tablet system for immediate translation to ensure our high-priority ELs have access to equitable learning. Next slide, please, sorry. Student attendance is the foundation of academic success. If students aren't at school, they can't learn. Every year within the charter term, RCA has maintained low chronic absenteeism rates compared to the district, state, and all neighboring schools. In addition, RCA saw a significant decrease in chronic absenteeism during the 23-24 school year, demonstrating our commitment to keeping students engaged in classrooms. Next slide, please. RCA is committed to creating safe and supportive school environments through restorative practices and strong family engagement. Throughout the charter term, RCA has also consistently maintained lower suspension rates than the neighboring schools, averaging at just 4.4%. In the 23-24 school year, we saw a significant decrease in suspensions, outperforming district, state, and neighboring schools. This reflects our focus on proactive interventions, relationship building, and restorative approaches to discipline. Next slide, please. This year, RCA was honored to receive a grant from the Ruby Bridges Foundation and partnered with AAA Mountain West Group to host a special Walk to School event. This Walk to School event was held in honor of Ruby Bridges, a courageous civil rights leader who integrated all white schools in New Orleans, symbolizing our commitment to community unity and student advocacy. Following the event, our students reflected on their experience by writing letters to Ruby Bridges herself, sharing how her legacy has inspired them to lead from their seats and become advocates of change. Programs like this are an ongoing effort to create meaningful, engaging opportunities for all our students, including our African American students population, an area where we continue to be intentional about deepening our impact and our reach. Next slide, please. As you are considering your decision, we urge you to recognize the dedication, the progress, and the resilience of our students, our staff, and our families. RCA is not just meets the renewal requirements, we exceed expectations, making a lasting impact on our community. We're asking the Board of Trustees to stand with us in supporting the future where RCA students continue to thrive. Your approval of this renewal is a vote for equity, opportunity, and excellence in education. Thank you for taking the time, your commitment to our students, and your belief in a transformative and powerful education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite, is there a representative for West Contra Costa Unified School District that wants to, they probably should have introduced the item, but this is what the lawyer sent me. So does the school district have anything, a presentation?
Yes, thank you, President Reckler. Apologies for the reverse order, but we would like for Douglas Pelton to be promoted so that he can present the process for renewal. And I believe comments will follow.
Great. Good evening, trustees, Dr. Moses, cabinet, community. My name is Douglas Pelton, and I'm a consultant with the West Contra Costa Unified School District with a focus on the charter oversight processes and systems at the district. I'm here to illustrate tonight the process and where we are at with the A Method Public Schools Richmond Charter Academy charter renewal petition. And I'd like to spend a few minutes with some slides that help build context for everybody on what we're doing. Is everybody able to see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so we should be on page 2 of the presentation. So Richmond Charter Academy opened in August of 2012 after having their petition approved by the West Contra Board. The Richmond Charter Academy first renewal was approved in 2017 by the WCCUSD Board for a 5-year period. However, Assembly Bill 130 extended all charter petitions in the state post-pandemic by 2 years. And then in 2023, Senate Bill 114 extended those expiration dates by another year. So that really led to a 4-year hiatus in any kind of renewals. And this is the first year that all the authorizers in the state are reviewing and processing renewal requests by those charters that landed on 2025 expiration dates. The next slide, 3. Just a couple of points that Trustee Reckler largely
discussed earlier, that we are holding this public hearing as required by AB 1505 within that 60-day period from the AMPS RCA submission of their renewal petition. And as Trustee Reckler stated, there is no board action on this charter petition in this meeting. Within 90 days of the receipt of the petition, and as Trustee Reckler represented, on or about April 30th, that would be within the 90-day period. The board will make or have the resolution to approve or deny the petition. Wanted to point out that renewals are considered under this 3-tier system, and you heard Richmond Charter Academy refer to the fact that they are categorized by the state at this point in time as a middle performing school. And the last point here is that any kind of a denial of a middle performing charter school has to meet specific criteria. And those are key criteria are the demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth due to substantial fiscal or governance factors, or the charter school is not serving all pupils who wish to attend. And the final slide 4, just to show where the district is in their process. We have, of course, received and initially reviewed the petition and accepted that, and that was in January, the last day of January. The site visit associated to kind of review that, the school and petition actually took place on January 27 by a site visit team from the district charter oversight office. The presentation of the petition is being held tonight. That is March 26th, within that 60-day requirement window. And then the finalization of the staff's finding, we will be completing and publishing by April the 10th to meet the requirement for at least 15-day public posting before the decision hearing. And with that, I'll turn it over to the next section of this public hearing.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we'll go to board questions. Does anybody have any questions on this item? Go ahead, Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy.
Thank you, President Reckler. Thank you so much for the presentations. My questions are for RCA. Good evening. My first question, this is going to be a tough question. 2 of the charters within the A Method family have been denied, but one by Oakland, one by us. We denied John Henry High School. Oakland denied Oakland Charter High School, both for various reasons. Some for conflict of interest, governance problems, financial concerns, and diversity concerns. My question for maybe the new CEO would be, how can you assure us that RCA is different than other schools within the network that have been denied? And what have you done as a network to change what has been brought up as deficiencies in other renewals?
Thank you for your question. It is a new day at A Method Public Schools, and we have a strong leadership team in place. We have a strong leadership team in place at RCA. Specifically, some of the issues that were raised for the Oakland Charter High School denial were around governance and fiscal concerns. The fiscal concerns were frankly similar to those that West Contra Costa has. We increased our finance staff internally. We contracted with a back office, and we are committed to ensuring that our reports, including our audits, are on time moving forward. We are also doing extensive work in reviewing all of our contracts, all of our processes, and we have made several revisions to our fiscal policies in order to ensure that we are encompassing all of the requirements and making sure that we are committing to a sound program, both academically and operationally. Regarding governance, we've expanded our board. We moved from 5 seats to 7 seats, and we are working to ensure that we have a strong group of leaders on our governing board that have varying degrees of expertise. So making sure that we have board members who have expertise in governance, in finance, in academics, and they are holding us accountable. They are diving in and ensuring that we as a leadership team and we as RCA are holding to our commitments to our students. Does that satisfy your question?
Thank you. I appreciate that answer.
Thank you.
My next question, it can be for any of you. 5 years ago, there were concerns about diversity at the school. I still see that there are issues with diversity. On average, our schools in West Contra Costa have a larger percentage of African-American students and students with special needs. What are you doing actively to recruit students that might have special needs or who fit, different criteria than what majority of your school looks like?
I would like to just start by noting that we are a school of choice. We are open to every student and family that wishes to join us, and then I will hand it over to Principal Landers.
Thank you. So in terms of the question around thinking about how we're increasing diversity, and particularly with our African-American students, I know that's been one of the things that's a concern. I first think that representation matters. And so as we look at our staff and our leaders, do those members show up? And are we reflective in that? I will say I do believe that we are. I think the second thing is around engaging our families that we do have and making sure that, one, the families that are here do they know about our FST? Are they a part of those structures? Do they know about, other things that we have in our school to keep them involved? But also making sure that the quality of the experience that the ones we do have are top tier, because we know that if those families feel connected and feel included, then it's about the word of mouth and it continues. And so I will say, it's not fully solved yet. It's not fully resolved, but it is something that's on our radar and we're actively working towards that.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. My last question is around I'm sorry, I keep referring you to CEO. Would you please remind me of your name?
Adrienne Barnes.
Ms. Barnes, thank you. Ms. Barnes, you talked about the concerns that we brought up in our letter. Could you talk a little bit more about what other corrective actions are you taking, not just to correct what we mentioned in the letter, but also to partner with us? Because out of all of our charters, RCA is the only one that we've had to do this to in the last 4 years. So could you talk a little bit and elaborate a little bit more about our partnership and especially our role to hold the charter accountable?
Absolutely. We believe in accountability and we believe in collaboration. We have had a couple of meetings with your charter school oversight staff, and we welcome those meetings. We welcome the feedback, and we're more than happy to have, even monthly meetings if your team would prefer. We want to be transparent in all of our communications with your team and with the board. We are here to ensure that you have all of the information, or you and your staff have all of the information that you need in order to effectively authorize us and to continue to hold us accountable for all of our work. I believe that we can work together and we can effectively assist each other in terms of building a stronger community in Richmond and making sure that we truly are, and we as collectively are truly serving all of our students and serving them well. I've seen partnerships in the past with charter schools and districts where they are working hand in hand, and they're doing that for their students and their scholars. And I would love to have the opportunity to do that with you. And I don't think that that has happened yet. And I hope that we can do that moving forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
President Reckler, that's not his question.
Thank you. Does anybody else have questions? Go ahead.
So good
Clerk
evening.
Yama.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple questions. So what is your teacher turnover, or let me rephrase it, your teacher retention for the last year?
Can we check in with our HR and credentialing team and get back to you on that?
Okay, well, that kind of leads on to my second question, because I do see that your ELA percentage actually grew a significant amount. Would you be able to tell me like how many students were tested?
I believe it was around like a 98% completion rate from last year. I know that we tested a majority of like the students that were there, so. Yes, we can actually get back to you to confirm the exact specific number.
Okay, my last question. So what is the number of SPED students that you're serving?
Currently around 100 and. Special education, I'm sorry, 22.
Okay, that's my last question.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I have a couple of questions. Thank you. Thank you for being here. What's your stability rate? Or your turnover, your retention rate of students?
Oh, of students. Yeah.
Good evening. So I can send exact numbers, but for 23-24, we had 6 students who joined after the beginning of the school year and 14 who left during the school year. For 22-23, it was 27 and 15. And then for the rest of the years, I can send numbers for that.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to come back to my colleague touched on diversity of your student body. I'd like to come back to SPED for a minute. So in our district for the WCC USD, not including charter schools, 59% of our students spend 80 or more % of their day in a regular class. Do you know what your percentage is for your SPED students and how much time they spend in a regular class?
Yes, so good evening. My name is Mary Busby and I'm the current Chief Academic Officer. Currently, our students spend 85 to 94% in the general education. We have a fully included program in which students are included throughout the day. They receive a small push-in or pull-out support services with a trained ed specialist.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to jump to finances now, and I'd like to go over your audit. Who performed your audit? Did the audit comply with statute for schools that need to be audited? Are they licensed CPAs by the California Board of Accountancy, and do they have a clear license?
What was that last question?
Do they have a clear license?
Our auditor for 22-23 was Baker Tilly. Our auditor for 23-24 is Christy White. And yes, they meet all requirements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In the audit, you did have some findings. How do you plan to address them?
I assume you're referring to the 22-23 audit?
The audit that you just completed and was on the draft audit that was just.
Oh,
on
the
your-
23-24 draft. Yes, we had one finding related to our internal controls, and we do, again, we brought in stronger staff to our finance department, and we are now using a back office provider to handle all of our accounting and our reporting.
Okay, so those are in progress. Are they in progress or are you just commencing them?
No, they've started.
It started. So
Yes, so the back office team started effectively what I did in June 2024, and officially they started as of July 1st, 2024. I started in June 2024, and Kimberly Palmore, our Senior Director of Finance, started in September 2024.
Okay, so it's in progress. Is it fully implemented or just in progress?
It's fully implemented.
Okay.
We're on the ground and running.
Okay, thank you. And finally, on March 13th, Dr. Moses sent to Adrian Barnes, which was acknowledged, a letter, notice of concern, letter of fiscal concern. There are a number of deliverables that are to be delivered on or before April 12th, 2025. It's a corrective action plan. It says, at a minimum, the district expects that AMPS take the following steps to address the identified RCA concerns. 1, provide documentation clearly describing the conditions leading to the unrestricted fund balance of negative $880,516 at the close of the 23-24 school year. 2, prepare an intervention plan that reduces expenditures and provides for adequate reserves with a detailed explanation of the structural changes to RCA operations, as well as confirmation of the AMP staff, administrators, and leadership responsible for implementing the plan. 3, provide timely and complete responses to district inquiries, including the submission of complete and accurate financial reports and supporting documentation. And 4, comply with all statutory deadlines for the submission of RCA financial reports. Are you able to meet these 4 bullet points at the end of the letter?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have questions? Okay, we'd like to move to public comment now.
Thank you.
We're going to try, since there are a lot of people, we're going to have Rosa call 7 people at a time. Please line up at the podium as she calls your name, so that we're going to save a little time. So don't start until we get 7 people lined up. If you are on Zoom and you're making public comment, raise your hand right now. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's Henderson. Sorry about that.
Okay, our first 7 people are Jordan Armendariz, Silvia Calderon, Donancy Madriz, Raúl Rosales, Guadalupe Amigon, Alexis Ortega, and Patty Fisher. Please line up at the podium.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jordan Armendariz, and I've had the privilege of being part of this incredible community for over 10 consecutive years, both as a student and as a staff member. I started here as a 6th grade student the second year RCA was open, and up until last year as a former staff member. This is my 3rd time speaking in front of the board in favor of keeping the school open, and each time I do, I am reminded of the impact RCA and the AMP system have had on our students and community. I've seen firsthand how this school fosters growth, discipline, and success. RCA has not only provided me with a solid education, but has also shaped me into the educator I am today. As I stand here with my former classmates, work colleagues, and students, I am reminded that we always find our way back to the same place that shaped us, challenged us, and inspired us. I look forward to returning in 2 years after completing my bachelor's degree to continue contributing to the future of this community. I firmly believe in the work we do here, and I'm excited to continue advocating for this school in the years to come. Thank you for your time and for your continued support of our students.
Good evening, board members. My name is Tonantzin Madriz, and I'm a proud student at Richmond Charter Academy. I wanted to share my experience at this school with you and why it's important to me. This school has been another home to me for the last 9 years. I have built strong relationships with the teachers and my peers. This school has helped me build confidence in myself and my thinking skills. It challenged me with new materials and taught me to never give up, even when things get rough. My math teacher this year, Miss Evans, has taught me math on a more one-to-one level. She takes her time teaching and makes sure we comprehend what we're learning. She offers so much support to our class. You can truly see her passion in teaching, and she really cares that we really understand everything. She doesn't just move on and lets us fall behind. I now feel more confident in my math class. The community that we have built at this school has made us a big family. Everyone knows each other and we all feel safe with one another. Charter schools allow for these kinds of relationships to be built, and by closing the school, many of us will lose our families. While there are public schools, charter schools
We are going to be taking a break. Thank you.
We're going to recess for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Improved, and my relationships with students and their caregivers has flourished.
Hold for just one moment. I see a note that Otelia can't hear. Otelia, can you signal to us if you can hear? You're good now? Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Good evening. My name is Patty Fisher, and I'm the proud grandmother of an Afro-American 8th grader at RCA. I'm also a former high school public school teacher. My grandson was attending a very good school, which I thought in Richmond, but he was falling through the cracks. Every day it was a struggle to get him to school. He hated school. I knew I had to do something before it was too late. I enrolled him at RCA early into the 6th grade. He was absent a lot because of his allergies. He was also becoming belligerent and was starting to fail. I recognized that he had ADD, and that was confirmed by his doctor. While he was getting better with medication in both of these situations, the staff at RCA did not drop the ball. They stayed with him and myself and all the time as he was improving. Since that time, he has blossomed at RCA. He's been Student of the Month. For the first time, and he's been attending school. He missed no days of school this last semester and was on the honor roll. He has continued to develop into a fine young person that I know he is.
Please
Thanks to
conclude your
the
comment.
dedicated staff at RCA. Okay, my minute's up.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Guadalupe de la Cruz, soy mamá de Amy de la Cruz, es una estudiante de Richmond Charter Academy. ¿Por qué decidí hacer el cambio? Por una buena educación. Vi porque en esta escuela tiene lo siguiente, tiene la puntualidad, es importante que tengas la información desde el principio, tienen uniformes, el estudiante no se preocupa por los cambios de ropa, todos se ven igual. Tienen tutoría los miércoles. Eso ayuda a cada estudiante con la dificultad en cada materia de 3 a 4. Las escuelas nos informan por teléfono o por texto la asistencia o el nivel académico o otra circunstancia. En la plataforma de Pares Square, donde están los mensajes de escuela todos los días. En Power School, ahí puedo ver las calificaciones día a día, las tareas y puedo mandar mensajes a los maestros. Hay conferencias con los maestros y tienen traducción. Las conferencias con la principal son cada vez en las mañanas. Hay consejería para ayuda de los estudiantes. Tengo 2 hijas mayores que asistieron a la escuela por 3 años consecutivos. Su GPA fue de 4.3. Hoy actualmente están en la universidad. Tienen la
Hello, everybody. My name is Jaden Hernandez Rivas, and I am proud to be a 7th grader and a member of student government at Richmond Charter Academy. Our school is more than just a school, it's a community where we feel safe, supported, and excited to learn. It's a place our family trusts to help us grow. Closing RCA would have a lasting negative impact on many students and families in our community. I used to be very shy, and in some ways, I still am. Speaking in front of my class or a large group has always been difficult for me, but at RCA, I've been encouraged to find my voice and step outside my comfort zone. This year, I ran for class senator even though I wasn't sure I would win. Since then, I've taken on new challenges like speaking in front of all of you today. Closing RCA would take away opportunities for my peers and me to continue growing into confident leaders. Thank you for your time.
Hello, board members. My name is Allison Anaya, and I am the vice president at RCA. When I first attended RCA, I was scared, nervous, and intimidated. Over time, school became harder, but RCA taught me how to get through it. Back when I was in 6th grade, my old teacher, Ms. Lee, was a huge help to my learning. She always provided a positive educational environment every time I would go to her class. She was always encouraging us to give it our best even when learning got hard. Our administration also encourages a healthy environment to learn and grow. Yes, school might be boring for some, but it also helps with socialization. RCA helps students get out of their comfort zone and inspires them to want to participate in school activities. This is one of the reasons why I am proud to be a part of RCA and why it should stay open. Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name's Stephen Paris. I'm the father of Declan Paris, who is a current student at Richmond Charter Academy, former student of Benito Juarez Elementary School. His mother's family have been in Richmond for over 100 years, making him a 5th-generation Richmond citizen. Declan is on the autism spectrum, which has proven challenging for him academically and socially. We became aware of this while he was at Benito Juarez Elementary. Routine and change is something that's Change in routine is difficult for him, so having continuous structure and philosophy across elementary to middle school has been extremely beneficial to him and helped him succeed. We're extremely proud to be members of this community, and we're extremely proud to be from Richmond. Thank you for your time.
Buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es María Vargas Cornejo y estoy aquí pues para dándoles gracias a todos ustedes que nos apoyan, ¿verdad? A escucharnos pues con el corazón, ¿verdad? Porque, bueno, yo estoy muy feliz de que mis niños estén aquí en esta escuela. Soy mamá de 6 hijos y como madre busco lo mejor para ellos, ¿verdad? Pues, y en verdad en la escuela RCA he encontrado, creo que lo mejor, porque desde la educación, desde la amistad que pueden tener, desde el apoyo de los maestros con los niños. Mis hijas han estudiado ahí, ahora ya están en la universidad, echándole ganas, ¿verdad? Como siempre, les agradezco a todos los maestros que hacen el mejor esfuerzo para que esta escuela continúe. Pues muchas gracias para todos.
Good evening. My name is Shantae Timms Russell. I'm a proud parent of a student at Richmond Charter Academy. I want to take a moment to speak about my son and my experience at RCA. My son has grown exponentially since he has been attending RCA. He comes home excited, telling me about the amazing things he have learned. For example, he has taught me the new math way to doing math. And he has also taught me microorganisms and how they affect us and how they spread. There is real teaching going on at RCA. As a parent, I believe that having strong, dedicated teachers is one of the most important things for a student's success. RCA teachers and staff are passionate about helping students grow and learn. They are committed to creating a supportive and encouraging learning environment, which is something I truly appreciate. I also like guidance.
Good evening. My name is Sabelia Ramirez, and I am a physical education teacher at Richmond Charter Academy. I'm here in support of the charter renewal for RCA. In addition to teaching at RCA, I had the honor to work with Playworks, a nonprofit, in various WCC USD schools like Stige, Lincoln, Aloni, Stewart, Lupine Hills, Paris Elementary, among others. Why work with Richmond Charter Academy? I've been a Richmond resident for 17 years. It is important to me to work close to home. Richmond Charter Academy serves many of my neighbors' children. I believe it is important to have schools within neighborhoods so that it strengthens the sense of community for students, parents, and staff in and out of school grounds. Students at RCA feel safe, and I know my neighbors and I are grateful that RCA offers a safe learning environment so close to home. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, my name is Stephanie De La Cruz. I used to go to RCA like around 2017, 2018, somewhere in between. However, I do have a little sister that goes here, but overall, I want to talk about my experience throughout there. I believe that within my years, it helped me develop more as a person in a way that teachers help students in pushing themselves, becoming more. I used to struggle a lot throughout school, in which teachers helped me, push me to becoming more, and it gave me the opportunity in becoming a successful college student at UC Berkeley. And so I hope that with this opportunity, it could help other students as well to learn and grow and be able to help their communities as well. Thank you. Well, hello guys, buenas noches. My name is Luz de la Cruz, and I am currently a first year at the University of California, Davis, studying science and technology studies. And I can say for sure that during my time at RCA, which was around like 2019, 2020, It was a difficult time, especially since it was during COVID. But like before the years after that, I can say for sure that I definitely found my community there. I think RCA definitely helps support, helps you build relationships within even teachers or like staff or even among students themselves. But just having that community behind you to support you and whether you want to go to college or whether you want to find jobs, just having that build up that support is really good to have. So I hope you guys can come to support.
Good evening, board members. My name is Aubrey Magno, and I'm a proud student at Richmond Charter Academy. I feel that I'm improving faster than ever, and I want to share why RCA should continue to teach and support students like me. Before coming to RCA, I wasn't very confident in my work, and I knew I needed a lot of improvement. But everything changed when I got here. My confidence in math has grown because I receive one-on-one support after school in the areas I need help with. We also use iReady, which gives us personalized lessons based on what we need to improve. I have been meeting my weekly goals in both math and reading, and I'm really proud of my progress. If I hadn't come to RCA, I don't think I would be as far along as I am now. And I know many other students feel the same way. And that's why I'm asking you to renew our charter so more students can grow and feel confident in their learning. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Our next public comment is Sylvia Calderon. Sylvia Calderon. Alexis Ortega. Sofia Saavedra. Alan Belize.
Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Alan Belize. I'm the administrative assistant for the RCA school year for the 24-25 school year. Despite being an employee at RCA for 1 year, I'm quite familiar with their motto and the AMPS vision, as I am an RCA alumni who attended RCA from 2016 to 2019 school year. RCA challenged me academically that helped me prepare for high school and college. They offer classroom support, and classroom support wasn't the only support I received. I also received outside classroom support that helped me grow, not just academically, but mentally as a person. So I ask you today to take in consideration to please vote to renew our charter so the kids in our local community can receive the same support I did a few years back. Thank you.
Next public comment is Edgar Quiros.
Good evening, board. My name is Edgar Quiros, and I come to you tonight as the board chair of A Method Public Schools and a steadfast advocate for Richmond Charter Academy. I appreciate the opportunity to address past financial management concerns head-on and to share the concrete steps that we are taking to ensure these issues are resolved, not just for compliance, but for the foundation of RCA's next chapter of excellence. I want to acknowledge the past challenges. We recognize that AMPS faced serious and valid criticism regarding financial bookkeeping, audit responsiveness, and personnel transitions. These were not intentional failures, but they were unacceptable. And as a board, we have taken immediate action to first restructure our financial leadership by hiring a COO with extensive charter experience and implemented staggering approvals for all expenditures.
Next public comment is Mark Mitchell.
I want to remind the board and encourage you all to take your responsibilities under AB 1505 seriously, and perhaps especially give notice to reviewing issues of finance, governance, student performance, under-enrollment of Black students, and under-enrollment of disabled students. And I think these are serious considerations for the benefit of our community and our district. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Sam Clear. Sam Clear. That concludes public comment.
Great. Thank you very much to everyone who gave public comment. As a reminder, this is only a hearing. There is no decision tonight. And at this time, I would like to close the public hearing at 9:34. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Okay, now we are back to C, Superintendent Communication. Dr. Moses, this is your item.
Thank you, President Reckler. I'll wait as we get the presentation pulled up and as we get the room cleared.
And maybe we just want to wait a minute for them to clear.
But I look forward to hearing from you. Yes, Louis, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Good evening, everyone, and we'll start the superintendent's report. Next slide. I'd like to start off this week's superintendent report by recognizing a staff member who has passed away. Miss Aretha Mitchell was a special education paraprofessional at Ohlone Elementary School. Miss Aretha passed away on March 3rd, 2025. I had the pleasure of serving at Ohlone Elementary School for 4 years with Miss Aretha, and this is a very difficult time for not only the Ohlone community, but especially for her family. Our thoughts and prayers go to her husband, Marcus Mitchell, her daughter, Markeisha, her sons, Mavante and Nicholas, her granddaughter, Antonia, and her friends and families during this time. We just want to recognize that she began her career with the district 14 years ago, starting at Lupine and later joined Ohlone, where she was a phenomenal educator, respected by all, serving in our ESN class for autism. She was dedicated to her team, her community, and most importantly, to her students for almost 11 years at Ohlone. Can you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Next slide. Congratulations are in order for our Richmond High School Marching Band. They were awarded first place at the San Francisco Chinese New Year Parade. Congratulations to our band teacher, Mr. Wilkie, and the Richmond High Band for this achievement. Go Oilers. You can check out their photos at RHS Oilers if you'd like to see more pictures. Great job. I'd also like to highlight this special event. We had a Special Olympics event at El Cerrito High School. It was March Hoops at the Special Olympics. We want to appreciate our special education department and also the El Cerrito High School staff and all of the many volunteers that showed up and participated in this event. I had the pleasure of enjoying the activities along with Clerk Inyana and President Reckler, and we had a wonderful time. So we want to shout out everyone who supported to make this event truly special for our students. In particular, our SPED department, El Cerrito High School Leadership Group, El Cerrito High School Black Student Union, the De Anza High School ROTC, and the El Cerrito Police Department. Next slide. Our students participated in the county science and engineering fair. We are proud to announce that 40 of our WCC USD students placed first, second, and third in our district science fair and were able to present their projects before the county judges at the Contra Costa County Science and Engineering Fair. I'd like to give a special congratulations to Sheshia Shriya, an 8th grader at Korematsu School Middle School. She won first place on her project at the County Science Fair. The title of her project, yes, let's give her a round of applause. Her project was titled Elasticity and Hyperbolic Crochet Structures. She will compete at the California Science and Engineering Fair this April. We wish her the best of luck. Next slide. We wanted to provide an update and show some appreciations for the El Cerrito High School incident regarding repairing their electricity. Last week, El Cerrito High School experienced a multi-day power outage, and we want to thank our maintenance team for fixing the issue with efficiency to get the El Cerrito High School students back into class. A special thanks to Principal Norrington and the El Cerrito staff for supporting our school site needs as we reopened the school, and a huge shout out to Melissa Payne and Ellen Mejia for their expertise and oversight in addressing this situation. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, next slide. We just wanted to announce our Richmond City Council presentation last night. There was a presentation where we shared information with the City Council regarding our budget, our enrollment, attendance, and some staffing updates. We appreciate the opportunity to present for the Richmond City Council, and we look forward to future collaboration projects with the council. Next slide. We have celebrated what I'd like to call the rebirth of Kennedy on March 15th. I believe that's the date. I don't see it here. We were able to celebrate the memories and history of the iconic 100 and 200 wing at Kennedy High School. This wing will be demolished later this summer. Alumni showed up. Speeches were made, and there was a reconnection with old classmates as they bid farewell to the memories of these buildings. We were honored to have several dignitaries, County Supervisor John Joya to support this event, along with our school board members, President Reckler, Clerk Inyana, Trustee Smith-Folds, former trustee Othry Christian, and the former El Cerrito mayor and council member and Kennedy alum, Paul Fideli. Thank you to everyone who joined us for this event. And there's a wonderful picture of Kennedy alum on the stairs of the 100 wing. Next slide. We also would like to take time to appreciate all of the community members who participated in our DLCAP Town Hall meetings. There was a meeting hosted on March 15th in person and a virtual meeting held last night to gather input from students, parents, and the community on the best strategies to support our students and remove barriers. So your feedback is important, and we want to just recognize and appreciate your support with this, gathering this input. Next slide. A few upcoming dates. Today marks the end of the third quarter for our secondary schools. So we want to wish our students a successful fourth quarter as they enter into the last quarter of the year tomorrow. Also, reminder to the community that Friday, March 28th is a reserve day and there is no school for students. Also would like to remind our elementary school families that open house is going to be held on Thursday, April 17th at the majority of our elementary school sites. We hope you can join us for that event. Next slide. Shout out to Dijon Middle School. Our administrative staff at Dijon Middle School has implemented an attendance challenge, and students have stepped up. For March Madness, the students at Dijon Middle School are having a contest on whether the 7th graders or 8th graders will have the best attendance this month. So we wish them good luck, and we appreciate their efforts to celebrate attendance at school. Next slide. I just wanted to share some photos from our March site visits. We were able to visit Dijon Middle School, Helms Middle School, Lake Elementary, and Ford Elementary. just a couple weeks ago, and just appreciate being in those spaces to share in the learning of our students and tour our buildings and have conversations with our staff and our students. So wanted to share that with you. Next slide. Hercules High School Dancing Honors. We want to shout out the Titans. Congratulations to the high school dance team for winning first place at Starbound National Talent Competition. They also won Senior Large Group Entertainment Award, Audience Choice Award, and Improvisation Hip Hop Award. Special shout out to Sophia Williams, 10th grader, for receiving a prestigious Elite Gold Award. And I also want to shout out because I'm the guardian of a young lady on this dance team holding the poster here, and they also won the Gravitate dance competition just a couple of weeks ago. So shout out to Hercules High dance team and shout out to my niece, Janai. Next slide. El Cerrito High School Dancing Honors. So El Cerrito's high school dance team is busy and winning awards as well. They attended the Stand Up for Arts Day in Sacramento, and they performed alongside other students on the West Steps and in the Reagan Library of the Capitol. Shout out to El Cerrito, and congratulations to the newest members of the El Cerrito chapter of the National Honor Society for Dance Arts. These dedicated dance students demonstrate excellence and commitment to their craft and will graduate with dance honors in June. Great job. Next slide. The applications for the 2024-25, the applications for the 25-26 school year will be released in the PowerSchool Parent Portal during the week of April 14th. These enrollments are first priority, and they will go to the first priority enrollments will go to students in these categories: families in transition, foster youth, students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, and English learners. We encourage everyone to apply and apply early. Next slide. We need your input for the new cell phone policy. Parents and community members, please share in the survey that is advertised on this slide by the QR code so that we can include your input on what should be included in the new WCC USD cell phone policy. We encourage you to fill out the survey. Next slide. The Ed Fund Scholarship is still open. The deadline is March 30th. We encourage all of our seniors to apply for this offer to support with their continued education. The QR code is listed on the slide. Next slide. We want to share the graduation dates that are coming up. It's almost graduation season as we start the fourth quarter. We want to share with the community the dates that are scheduled for the commencement exercises and activities. Next slide. We also want to shout out our committees and encourage and invite all community and family members to come out and share your voice and participate in our committees. So the committees are listed there, as is their next meeting dates, and we encourage you to select a committee or two or three and participate and share your input. Next slide. That concludes the superintendent's report for tonight. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for the superintendent? Okay, seeing none. Oh, go right ahead.
It's not a question, but I would be remiss not to speak on Miss Aretha. I absolutely loved and adored her at Lupine Hills, and she was just a really, really special person. And she loved on everyone that she came in contact with, especially the students. And she was just a real light, and she will be missed. I'm complete.
Thank you for that remembrance. Before we go any further, can we just look at the agenda and figure out what we want to do? The meeting is supposed to end at 10, and we still have 2 discussion items and 2 action items. What would people like to do? No ideas? Do we want to extend to 10:30 and take off student data and iReady? And we would hear the district's attendance presentation, go to the first interim, and then do the Fund 17 transfer?
think that's a good plan. I'll make a motion that we extend the meeting until 10:30.
Okay, so it would be to extend to 10:30, removing student data and iReady, but keeping support and attendance. I'm sorry, attendance and enrollment, first interim and the resolution. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any comments? Okay, would you like to go ahead, start us off?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Hernandez,
Yes.
Clerk Kenyatta,
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Way,
Yes.
Trustee Smith Folds,
Smith Folds, yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay,
President Reckler, I was wondering if we could maybe just, sorry, a recommendation. Could we just start with the second interim, just in case? Because I think that's the most important.
is everybody okay with that? Okay, great idea. Let's go for second interim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. This is your item.
All right. Good evening, President Reckler, members of the board, and Interim Superintendent Dr. Moses. About a year ago, I was standing on this podium with Dr. Moses presenting second interim. Tonight, I am joined by David Hart, our interim CVO. We'll be presenting the 24-25 second interim financial report tonight. And so I want to start off by giving a huge appreciation to the business services team to put these financials together for this report. Next slide. So here you'll see the annual budget cycle timeline. So far this year, we've done the September unaudited actuals, the December first interim report, and tonight in March, we're here for the second interim report. Upcoming, you'll see our budget development, LCAP, and adopted budget and estimated actuals coming up in April and June. So the second interim report is data as of January 31st, 2025. We are required to report this data to the county, which then reports it to the state as of January 31st, submitted by March 15th every year. This is an update on the district financials, a review of the projected revenue and expenditures throughout the year. Each interim, we update the budget as of known information and upcoming information that we know to be coming. These are also, we'll go over adjustments to our multi-year projection informed by the expenditure budget assumptions and information from the CDE. Next slide. And with that, I'll let Mr. Hart speak.
Good evening. And following Jeff's lead, allow me to thank him for the work that he has done, both in bringing me up to speed with the nuances of the district, as well as just being somebody who on a daily basis I can rely on for his professionalism. What you have before you, as Jeff alluded to, is a summation of changes that have occurred in the district as it relates to the budget. If we go back, we can migrate from when the budget was originally adopted to first interim to where we are now in second interim. We're reviewing all line items, if you will, and further categories then by revenues and expenditures. And as you are familiar, within that, we will at times speak to different funds and whether the dollars within those particular budgets are restricted or unrestricted, operating or capital. That would be beyond our planned presentation tonight, but it is the nature of the scope of the work. We will examine the adjustments and speak to that this evening. Next slide, please. With regards to the changes that you have before you, and this will be covered in detail here in a moment, you will note that there are changes in our revenues, the interest revenue expense, the changes that occur as the state works through its budget process. Obviously, there are ramifications for us, so we call to your attention that third bullet, which is to note that the Legislative Analyst Office has announced an expected decrease in the COLA. That is to say, the percent applied to our LCFF revenues and special education revenues has dropped by 0.5%. And then accordingly, other changes we have made with regards to the restricted maintenance account. Next slide, please. In particular to the LCFF revenue changes, you can see here on the table, while the changes, a lot of lines here, but there are two particular lines I draw your attention to. One is that our unduplicated pupil count has risen ever so slightly as the ADA count has, which is the average daily attendance, has diminished a tad. The net effect of those, in addition to also seeing a lower ADA in our transitional kindergarten, is a decline in our LCF revenue of approximately $175,000. Next slide. In terms of the unrestricted revenue and combined revenue changes, first off, just to sort of orient you on this, the first half of this is the unrestricted. The second half is the combined. The difference between those are the restricted general fund revenues. It's worth noting that the change first interim to second interim with regards to the unrestricted is what I'll call a relatively modest change in other local revenues. Of that amount, the single largest portion, I would say, is the interest income, counts for about 500,000, has to do with three factors. One, we have more money on deposit than we initially anticipated. That money is sitting on deposit longer than we anticipated, and the rates have not declined in a way that we might have thought at one point in time. The other 1.2 is miscellaneous revenues, and these are truly miscellaneous. We consolidate numerous activities into this particular line item, ranging from checks that we have written to individuals, to vendors, who then get returned to us for one reason or another, and we void the check. So we anticipated that we would have made payment, and then for whatever reason, we are able to essentially rebook that revenue when the checks do not clear. We also have a thing called the on behalf of revenues. These are dollars that we would have paid out to CalSTRS, but in the course of the state's budgeting activities, they make contributions to that pension in lieu of a district having to do so. That results in essentially a refund of payments that we have made, and that money comes back to us. It truly is a hodgepodge of miscellaneous activities, accounting for about 1.2 million of that 1.7 total. When we look at the combined general fund revenues, you see that there is also a variety of accounts for which we are showing a difference. The federal revenue, the Title II, and the special education is largely a function of changes in pupil counts and the resulting revenue streams that come from that. The other state revenue, the correction to ELOP, it is just a true up that's occurring as we get more exact in the mid-year. As Jeff noted, what we are moving from is a mid-fall forecast of those numbers. Now at January 31st, we're able to have half a year's data in hand. It allows us to tighten up on that ever so slightly. The other local revenue components there, much of this is a pass-through. That 6.3 million, there's a, I'm trying to remember the name of the vendor, but we had received a grant that originally we had anticipated would gone to a vendor that provides healthcare services, mental health care services. The grant got named to the district, so we had to show the revenue in order then to pass it through to that particular party. That accounted for, if memory serves, that was about, let's see, $909,000. The single largest item there is a correction with regards to Medi-Cal. They're in the process of doing a multi-year accounting, a sort of true up, And we have received year to date about $3.1 million for corrections that are going back to early in the pandemic. We have an initial notice from them that there may be additional dollars forthcoming. If that in fact occurs, you will see this number change again. One of the comments I would make to the board and for consideration by our audience is the numbers that we provide are the best available data that we have at this point in time. It is also the case that the further out we go, the more confident I am that whatever our forecast, those numbers will prove to be inaccurate if one wants to take that perspective. The point is that the numbers will change, and this is in part why the state asks for what's your original budget, a first interim report, a second interim report, and then when we come back with the proposed budget for 25-26, we will refresh again. The estimates that we have now in hand will become that much firmer as we are getting closer to the end of the school year, and our estimates will look much more like an actual as opposed to an estimate. In regards to the next slide, I'm going to turn that over to Jeff, and he'll cover the expenditure differences.
All right, so here I want to talk about some of the changes from first interim to second interim in our major object codes. So you'll see here in certificated salaries, an increase of 952,000. That's due to a few factors, aligning with current staffing, increasing substitutes, additional students being taken, additional prep periods being covered. All these time cards that get submitted increase our expenditures in certificated salaries, as well as in January this year, we had taken some instructional coaches and program assistants and placed them back in the classroom to fill some of our vacancies. A lot of those instructional coaches and PAs were on restricted funding or grants. When we move them back into the classroom, that moves them over to the unrestricted side where we're budgeting for certificated teacher salaries. So you're seeing an increase here for multiple factors, but those are the main factors highlighted there. Classified salaries, similar increase, 224,000, aligning with current staffing, increasing subs, additional hours, stipends, overtime, things like that. Benefits, though, you'll see that there's a decrease here in benefits. This is mostly due to adjustments for vacancies. Up until this point, if a position has been vacant, we take those funds back and move them to other expenditures to cover where needed. For example, substitutes that are replacing and filling for those vacancies. So some of that benefits line you're seeing there as a decrease has been moved up to the ones and twos, or the certificate and classified salaries, to cover those additional increases for substitutes. Moving down to books and supplies, you're seeing a large increase there, 879,000. This is some budget alignments with site and department budgets, as well as building in a device refresh plan moving forward for technology. Number 5, services and operating expenditures. You're seeing a $1.4 million increase here. This is building in some things to the budget, which Mr. Hart will talk about in the MYP in a future slide. But we're building in some expenditures that were not in the original budget. Some of those include board elections, instructional minutes penalty that was from our audit, and a special ed transportation contract that is projected to go over budget at the moment. So we're covering for some of these additional expenditures in services. Going down, a site purchased, some capital outlay, a decrease in indirect costs due to changes on the restricted program. So the next slide, we're going to go into restricted. You're seeing a decrease in indirect costs due to some of those changes. And then right below that, the increase to the RMA contribution. This is the routine restricted maintenance account. We are required to fund a 3% contribution from unrestricted dollars to the restricted maintenance account, similar to how we have to make a contribution from unrestricted to special ed for what they go over. We have to provide 3% to routine maintenance. With our increased expenditures, which you're seeing here in unrestricted and on the next slide of increased expenditures in restricted, we have to increase that RMA contribution due to an increase in total expenditures overall. Next slide. So this is, there we go. This slide is the restricted expenditure changes. So similar to the last slide, but this is on our restricted side. You're seeing that decrease in certificated salaries. This is in line with the instructional coaches and PAs moving over to the unrestricted. So there's kind of a seesaw here. Classified salaries going up a little bit from subs, extra time and overtime stipends, benefits going up due to vacancies, but also when you time card, it's not health benefits, but there's fixed statutory benefits that also increase at the same time. So you're not seeing as big of an offset that happened on the unrestricted side. Books and supplies are down 2.6 million. This is mostly due to carryover in community schools, RMA, restricted routine maintenance, SIPIP, Title I, SPED, and ELOP. Those carryover funds from the prior year get budgeted into the fours, or the books and supplies, materials and supplies, which is then given to the sites to decide how they want to spend it. Sometimes they make a plan that chooses to spend it in contracts or services or in positions or salary. And that money will get budgeted out of the books and supplies and move to another one of these major objects, which you're seeing a decrease in fours or books and supplies, and then an increase in the next line, services and other operating expenditures, by 5.7 million. This is due to adjustments to contracts to the same programs: ELOP, SPED, RMA, sites, restricted lottery, SIPIP, community schools. So a lot of that is shifting between books and supplies and over to services if their site plans have chosen to go that route. Going down, we've got a science table that was purchased. M&O and site purchases have increased our capital outlay. These are purchases that are over $5,000 for a single item. Decrease to indirect costs due to the above changes. This was also noted on the unrestricted side. And then the increase to RMA contribution is seen as a negative on here as additional revenue. So coming from unrestricted and moving to restricted, you're seeing an increase on the unrestricted and the exact same decrease mirrored on the restricted side. So those are the major changes from first interim to second interim for our expenditures. I'll pass it back to David.
Thank you, sir. So next slide, please. So in terms of the consideration for multi-year projections, headlining perhaps any urban school district at this point in time is a decline in enrollment and the variability of ADA. Just as a sidebar, while we have as a district seen our enrollment drop by over 10% in the last, I'd say 5 years, it is also the case that it remains a focus of paramount concern, if you will. One, it's just trying to understand what's happened the last number of years and what steps the district might take to mitigate for the loss of enrollment and whether or not we're able to, of those students who are enrolled, boost their attendance. It's also the case that there's a little bit of wonder as it pertains to the current climate in which we are operating. What I'm speaking of in particular is what implications will the Trump administration have upon immigration, and will there be a resulting drop, temporary or permanent, in our attendance, and what effect, if any, there is on ADA. It's not to say that we have made a determination, and this is an item that we are flagging for you in part because it is such a significant driver for us in terms of our revenue. It is also the case that we have, as a district, made a conscious choice to use one-time revenues for ongoing expenses. That was a prudent course of action that most every school district in the nation did, particularly when the one-time source of revenue was COVID relief funds. It allowed school districts to shift some expenses, those that were eligible, from a general fund, most typically unrestricted general fund dollars, to the one-time source that was COVID relief. That allowed districts to buoy or forestall a drawdown on their general funds balance, and that certainly has occurred here. However, it is now the case that as those one-time funds, which are not limited just to COVID relief funds, but we have a handful of funds, notably the Learning Recovery Block Grant, that will be soon expiring. The COVID relief funds, you may recall, needed to be fully expended by September of 24. The district did meet that mark. And there are a variety of other one-time source of revenues that will either no longer be available or we will have drawn them down to zero. That then leads to how do we bridge? How do we create a smoother glide path than we otherwise might have? The district does operate with a structural deficit. That means that in any given year, we are expending a larger amount of funds than we are taking in. That doesn't mean the budget isn't balanced. What we are saying is that we have to utilize our fund balance to create a balanced budget. We have to draw on our savings in order to submit to you a budget that is thought to be where available revenues, which is our savings plus current year revenues taken together, exceeds the planned current year expenditures. But in that nature, the revenues that are our reserves take on the same shape, if you will, of the revenues that are of a one-time nature. And that is, once they're expended, they are no longer available. Managing through that process will be a challenge. It is for every entity. It is for us in our home life. If we're using our savings to cover our daily spending habits, something has to give. That also speaks to what are some of the items that are in our multi-year plan. We have been going through the multi-year plan and making sure that what is reflected in that plan is reasonable. We are finding some things that perhaps were understated. So 2 of those are called out here, and that is the necessary dollars for IT. In particular, what is here is for the refresh of devices for both staff and students. Doesn't necessarily have to happen tomorrow, but in a forecast that will extend for 3 years, it is difficult to imagine how that occurs if there are no dollars allocated. It is also the case that the same is true for our curricular materials, updates to mathematics, to literacy. It is my strong recommendation that we need to have a set aside, a plan for how we meet those. And the reason for doing so is that these are not small ticket items. These are not of the 100,000 here, 100,000 there variety. They are typically in the millions of dollars, and they require a concerted plan, a concerted effort, and a thoughtful plan on how it's going to be solved. It is also the case that in looking at the district's budget, it is my sense that we have under budgeted for the exposure resulting from AB 218, that is the settlement of cases related to sexual abuse and molestation. We are learning daily of additional costs, and at this moment in time, what I would tell you is what is in the documents in front of you is actually will be revised tomorrow morning. We've had conversation with the provider for insurance for the district that covered the period of 1986 through 2007, and have learned that the likelihood of settlements, of judgments, the amounts needed for the incurred but not reported claims, that is going to require an increase. It also will be in a couple of $1 million. Having said all that, what's not on this slide is what's not included. And so some of that is the dollars that would be necessary for the sexual abuse and molestation. It's also to say that what's in the forecast does not include any amounts for compensation. So as the district is entered into a cycle of negotiation, the budget has some dollars set aside for what has historically been non-negotiated items. So steps and columns are budgeted for. The health benefits have a set aside of an increase of 5% per year. And said in a different way, if the cost of our health care increases by more than 5%, that is not reflected in our current budget. It's difficult at this point in time to get an accurate, much less anyone, to offer a guess as to what the cost of benefits will be come calendar year 26. And that is a way to remind people that our benefit year is a January 1 through January 1 through December 31st cost. But what I would offer is at 5%, it's aggressive. And aggressive means it isn't conservative. If we came into this year, 5% would probably be low by about 2% relative to what was seen as a rate increase in the Bay Area. So just flagging that as you look through that on a multi-year basis, that's the kind of activities that are not presently reflected in our forecast. And I would suggest that prudence dictates that as we come forward for the 25-26 budget, and with that budget, when we have to then forecast for a 3-year period, which will add one additional year, 27-28, you will see some of these costs reflected. If you're looking on a last year's budget to this year's budget, first interim, second interim, you're going to see an evolution of numbers. My commitment is that we want to be very transparent about the source of those, our underlying assumptions, not going to submit to you that they're accurate irrefutably. What we will try to do is ensure that the information we convey to you is both coherent and comprehensive. Right now, what you're hearing from me is that I think it is very coherent, but I'm not certain it is as comprehensive as it might otherwise be. Next slide, please. In terms of our planning factors, what you have undoubtedly picked up is that the state's issues, excuse me, I misspoke, that when the state renders its cost of living adjustment, what we refer to as a COLA, it is a significant driver for our revenues. A side note, COLA is not the same as CPI. The Consumer Price Index is a number that serves as the anchor or the denominator in a sense. I don't mean it in that pure mathematical sense. It is the basis for how the COLA is determined, but the state has an obligation to fund the COLA at a level that it can afford. That may not be equal to the CPI. It is rare that it isn't the case. But as we look at the state and start to see mixed signals, I want to advise you that it is possible that the amount of revenue we receive that in theory is supposed to keep pace with the loss of purchasing power to inflation may not be the case. Next slide, please. The unrestricted general fund MYP, also here for your consideration. It is important to note that that top line shows you what the revenues are. And as you can see for yourself, those revenues are relatively steady. And that what's happening in those particular lines is that the increase in the COLA is offsetting the loss of enrollment and a reduction in the ADA. What you'll also note is that in the third line, you see the operating deficit. This is what I was speaking to earlier, a structural deficit. In the first year shown here, 24-25, you see that it is at 18.5. Next year, it is at 17.8. And the year after that, 26-27 is at 7.9 million. You'll also note then that there is a beginning fund balance, and what that is speaking to is the amount of monies that are available at the start of each of these fiscal years within Fund 17. Some number of years ago, the district sought to set aside a reserve in a discrete fund, and that is Fund 17. And you'll see that if we stay at the first line there, the projected beginning balance drops from 24 to 19. But what you'll see then is that as those transfers are occurring between the general fund and Fund 17, that the transfers result in a reduction in the Fund 17 reserve from a transfer in from Fund 17, 11.5, 20.1, and 6.7, which provides for the general fund a balance, this gets complicated, of 17.1, 19.6, and 18.5. The first implication would be hey, we're doing pretty good. The challenge is that the preponderance of those dollars have to be set aside to meet a state requirement for a 3% reserve for emergency. And so when you take that into account, what you'll see is in the second line from the bottom, when we reduce the projected ending balance, and right now I'm in column 2425, the 17.2, taking out 300 million for, or excuse me, 300,000 for non-spendable, we are barely able to meet the requirements imposed by the state on school districts to maintain an emergency reserve of 3%. That pattern plays itself out in each of the subsequent years. So from the top, when we look at 25, 26, we have revenues forecast at 356 round up 9 million against expenditures of 374.9, excuse me, 0.7, which creates a deficit of $17.8 million. The result is that we are anticipating a transfer in from Fund 17 of 20.2, which gives us an ending balance then of 19.56. And then when we work through the numbers that we have here, you'll see that we have a ending balance of 16.171, which is the necessary amount to meet the 3%. Would not be surprised if you have questions, and we will come back to this on multiple occasions as we present to you over the months ahead. But the point is, we're having to draw on our set-aside reserve, Fund 17, in order to meet the minimum requirements imposed by the state on a school district to have a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. Next slide. In this same context, what we wanted to do is just call out how these totals change. On the prior slide, it was just the the unrestricted general fund. On this particular slide, it is the combined general fund, which includes the restricted. The numbers are essentially, well, not essentially, they are the same with the exception of the addition of the restricted fund balances. So you'll see in the bottom half of our graph here, our table, that there are restricted balances of 60.1 million, 28.6, and 11.1. Those dollars are going down in that amount because these are, as I alluded to earlier, these are both restricted and one-time funding sources. So as they are utilized, they are not replenished, and that will be also a challenge for us to address. But you'll see then that the reserve for economic uncertainty remains unchanged, and that the total dollar amount available at the end of the year is zero for all intents and purposes. Next slide, please. Fund 17 is the fund that I was referring to, and just to walk you through how these balances work. Coming into this school year, the 24-25 school year, the balance was 37.6. There was a contribution made from Fund 17 to the general fund of 11.5. That left a balance of 27.1. The math doesn't work perfectly because during the course of the year, there is interest earnings that we are adding back on the balance that remains within the account. That is then repeated in the two subsequent fiscal years. There's a projected balance, a contribution from Fund 17 into the general fund, and the resulting ending balance. Can I have you go back one slide, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. Hart, we are at 8 minutes. Can I, before the meeting ends, may I just check in with the board briefly? What would you like to do?
Do we have to approve this second item tonight?
Do you want to approve it and the resolution and visit it on Saturday for questions?
Sure. I mean, I emailed all my questions. Haven't gotten a response, but maybe we can only email our questions and
address it on Saturday? Okay, so do you want him to finish up in a second and we'll accept it? Are there, go ahead.
Just clarification. So we are moving to approve and then ask questions after?
If you want to do that. It's an exception. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's an ACCEPT. We accept it. We don't approve it.
Okay, that's why I wanted clarification.
I'm sorry. Yes. So would people like to do that and then we can visit it Saturday? Yes, okay. So Saturday morning, we're gonna have questions. Does anybody want to move it?
Board President, I'll move that we accept the second interim.
Is there a second?
Well,
Is there a second on the item? I'll go ahead and second it. Okay, we'll go to the vote. Student trustee Espinoza,
Yes.
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 There's confusion in the audience. Do you want to repeat what's going on?
I'm sorry, what's the question? I can't hear.
On Saturday, we have a board retreat. Yes, it's open to the public through Zoom and in person. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Smith Folds, yes.
And I'm a yes. Second interim is accepted. Okay, let's quickly go to the resolution number 2425-63, transfer of funds from Fund 17 to pay current year liabilities. Do you have a brief update on that?
President Reckler, I'll just move that we accept resolution number 2425-63.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Is there any comment? Public comment? No, okay. We'll start down there with student trustee Espinoza.
Yes.
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 Smith Folds, yes.
And I'm a yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're up to 10:26. Does anybody want to end with something to say? I just have one thing to say to Mr. Mitchell. I am not able to recall ever hearing in public comment about Cal OSHA. I'll go back and listen, but I'm just not able to recall I've ever heard anything about Steve Cal OSHA, but I will check. And with that,
President Reckler, we did have some public comment for the budget item. Did you just want to take the
okay.
public comment now?
Yeah,
Since we
go
have a
ahead.
couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Mark Mitchell. Gabriel Micheletti.
There are a few things that are not seen in the report that I just want to mention because right now you're only seeing comparisons between the first and second interim, which makes some of these numbers far less shocking. At the same time as educators and students facing staff are facing cuts to save $7 million, the professional and consulting services budget has increased by nearly $29 million since the initial budget, and the budget for sub-agreements for service increased $10 million from the initial budget. The budget for certificated staff salaries increased by $8 million, similar to inflation we have seen in past years, which did not bear out in the unaudited actuals. This number seems insincere as there's been no concomitant increase to the STIRS budget. Another number to note that is that spending for conferences and travel has doubled, an increase of $655,000. While this number is not huge in the context of the entire budget, it is troubling when the district is cutting a counselor to save $145,000, and that overspending could fund 4.5 educators for an entire year. According to EdData, WCCUSD spends only 94% of the average amount that unified school districts in California spend on certificated salaries. This may not sound significant, but add up, this is a difference of approximately $10 million. On the other hand, West Contra
Is there any more public comment? No, none? Okay.
Yes.
So with that.
There is. I'd like to make one minute on what we just talked about.
Can you start the clock at 1 minute, please?
Thank you, President Reckler. So I spoke
I'm
previously.
sorry, hold for just 1 second. The clock isn't started because they're busy. Let me start my clock, please.
Sorry, President Reckler, just to clarify, they didn't start the clock because he did not submit it.
Yeah, I know, that's fine, but we should if we can, so we can. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I made the comment earlier that there's a messy system at my school and probably many schools for accounting for time cards and overages in subbing for teachers. I'm also owed overtime for having 37 students in one of my classes that nobody told me about. So if the district is not tracking this carefully, it's not surprising that there's overages and unexpected expenses on the chart. In the one case of a specific example of changing the schedule at El Cerrito High School, that's to change. There's so many expenses you're not accounting for. You're just reacting to everything. Portables that might need to be installed because of the class sizes. There's so many changes. That building was built with the block schedule in mind. So I just don't trust that you're really accounting for this stuff if you don't track what's going on at the school sites. I'm really concerned about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the board is April 16th, 2025 here at Lavanya DeJohn Middle School. We do intend to have a board retreat this Saturday, March 29th, and the agenda, it's a special meeting, so the agenda will post within the next couple of days. Thank you. I'm adjourning at 10:30.